Regards, so do stay tuned to listen to Gordon Aikman here with me, Iain Dale at Drive on LBC.
On FM, online, on your mobile and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 7 o'clock, David Cameron and Barack Obama have announced they're forming a new joint group to counter the rise of violent extremism.
We will not be standing alone in this fight. We know what we're up against, and we know how we will win. We face a poisonous and fanatical ideology that wants to pervert one of the world's major religions, Islam, and create conflict, terror and death.
Intelligence and military force alone is not going to solve this problem, so we're also going to keep working together on strategies to counter violent extremism that radicalizes, recruits, and mobilizes people, especially young people, to engage in terrorism.
The pair have held talks in Washington, where they've also confirmed plans to conduct cybersecurity war games in the City of London and on Wall Street. A joint cyber cell will also be set up to share intelligence about hackers. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has welcomed the announcement that police across the UK are to step up protection for Jewish communities. Britain's most senior police officer, Mark Rowley, says there is a heightened concern following the attack on a kosher supermarket in Paris and anti-Semitic rhetoric. David Cameron says the extra patrols are needed.
This is based on what has happened in France, on the whole picture that we see, and it is sensible, precautionary measures to make sure we do what we can to reassure those communities who are all too aware of the threat that they face.
An 18-year-old woman has been arrested at Stansted Airport on suspicion of terrorism offences. Officers held the teenager when she arrived on a flight at around 4 o'clock this afternoon. She's been taken to a central London police station where she remains in custody. A man has been jailed for 4.5 years for stabbing an 18-year-old at last year's Notting Hill Carnival in West London. The teenager was stabbed 6 times after being chased by a group, but has now recovered from his injuries. Met Police say they are still trying to find the other attackers. Emergency call handlers will be given an extra 2 minutes before deciding whether to dispatch an ambulance. The Health Secretary says it will mean the vehicles are better deployed to where they are most needed. It's being piloted in London and the southwest of England. Chief Executive of the South Western Ambulance Trust, Ken Wenman, has told Ian it's a very good idea.
There's over almost 8 million calls a year now going to ambulance services, and still a vast majority of those are calls that could be dealt with in an entirely different way safely. So this trial will endeavour to find a number of those calls that we can deal with safely.
Prosecutors are going to investigate whether a website set up in support of rapist footballer Ched Evans has broken the law by identifying his victim. Evans was released from jail last year after serving half of his 5-year jail sentence. A British spacecraft which disappeared more than 10 years ago as it approached Mars has been found. Beagle 2 was due to touch down on Christmas Day 2003. The craft did actually land, but because it only partially deployed, it was never able to send a signal back to Earth. LBC weather, a widespread frost overnight for London and the southeast, some rain for western areas and feeling very cold, lows of -1 Celsius. Some wintry showers for northwest England, Wales, Northern Ireland and western Scotland, frosty elsewhere, a mix of sunshine and more wintry showers over the weekend, and tomorrow highs of 7 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Simon Conway.
I'm Natalie Bailey in the LBC Travel Centre. On the M25 in Hertfordshire, queues continue anti-clockwise from junctions 25 to 24, the A10 to Potters Bar, past an accident that's blocking the inside lane. And on the M25 in Buckinghamshire, there are queues anti-clockwise from junctions 17 to 13. That's Maple Cross to the Staines turn-off. In London, it's very slow moving on all approaches to the Hammersmith Gyratory because the traffic lights on Fulham Palace Road outside of Charing Cross Hospital aren't working properly. And in Northamptonshire, all lanes have reopened on the northbound M1 at junction 15 at Northampton after an accident involving 2 lorries. There are still very long delays back to junction 14 at Milton Keynes though. And in Worcestershire on the M5 there are delays northbound through the roadworks between junctions 4A and 4. That's the M42 to Bromsgrove. In Manchester on the southbound M61, traffic slow from junction 4 at Farnworth to the M60 interchange after an earlier closure of the East Lancashire Road. All lanes have now reopened. On the trains, the Gatwick Express have 15-minute delays between Gatwick and Victoria, and Arriva Trains Wales have 30-minute delays between Bridgend and Cardiff Central. Keeping you moving, your next travel update is in 15 minutes.
LBC Travel.
With Go-To Meeting, where there's always a seat for you.
This is LBC. Leading Britain's conversation with Iain Dale at Drive. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. Iain Dale at Drive on LBC.
Hello, a very good evening to you. Welcome to the show. Now, if you or someone you know has been affected by motor neurone disease, you won't want to miss the next hour. I want to introduce you to a remarkable person. Gordon Aikman is 29. He has motor neurone disease. He's dying, and he's dying fast. Now, on average, people die within 14 months of being diagnosed. Gordon was diagnosed 7 months ago. But he doesn't want pity, he wants action. He joins me with his partner Joe in the studio to tell us about his story, his campaign, and to take your calls. And if you're affected by motor neurone disease and want to share your experience, pick up the phone now and call 0345 6060 973. Now, we'll meet Gordon in a moment, but first, let me just tell you how I got to know him. You may remember Joe Pike, who was a reporter on LBC, is a very good friend of mine. He nominated me to do the Ice Bucket Challenge last summer. I almost decided he wasn't a good friend of mine after that, but I didn't want to do it at first. But then he told me it was for his partner, Gordon, who had just been diagnosed with motor neurone disease. This is his story.
I'm Gordon Aikman, I'm 29, I live in Edinburgh, and I'm an MND patient. Motor neurone disease, it's a neurological condition which attacks your nerves. It makes your muscles increasingly weak. It leads to your muscles wasting away all over your body, and that causes weakness. It means that soon I won't be able to walk. It'll give me difficulty in how I talk, how I breathe, how I eat. So it affects every aspect of my life. And in the last few months, it has progressed very quickly. MND does. Half of people diagnosed with MND die within 14 months. It is rapid. And you're powerless. Your body is shutting down around you. You're trapped in a body which was once super healthy and super able, and now is increasingly disabled. As you get closer to all these things, and I'm adapting every day to a new sense of normal. My body is becoming increasingly disabled, so I'm developing workarounds, trying to develop new ways of doing things. But I don't think anything can prepare you for what's coming. I think with time comes acceptance, and I think as you get closer to sort of needing a wheelchair or needing support with your breathing or needing help, be it washing, feeding, dressing, you name it, the need becomes so great, the inevitability kills any reluctance or any stigma that you might have. So I think it's just a process of acceptance, and as you get closer to, you've just got to be very rational and very honest about what your body needs, and if you need help, you need help. One of the few sort of saving graces of motor neurone disease is that it doesn't actually affect your brain. So even though my body will slowly shut down around me and I will become paralysed, eventually I'll be stuck in a wheelchair, unable to move or do anything by myself, I will never lose my brain, my ability to think, my cognition. And that's really lucky. That's an amazingly powerful thing, and offers real hope for the future, and that not all will be lost. I've got a clock ticking above my head. I'm 7 months into the 14 months. Hopefully I'll prove the doctors wrong, but I've got to live my life and get out, enjoy life as much as I can, live every day as if it's my last. I don't know how long I've got. None of us do. But what I know is my clock's ticking down much faster. And the hardest thing is knowing that the people you love the most will be hurt the most. by what you're going through, and I wish more than anything that I didn't have to put everyone else through this. You know, people don't live long. MND kills, and it kills fast.
Now, just a reminder, you can watch us live on lbc.co.uk on the webcam. Now, Gordon is with me now. Gordon, thanks for joining us here in the studio.
No worries.
Listening to that was a strange experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's me. That's my life. It's tough.
Tell me about the moment that you were in the doctor's surgery and he said the words, "You have motor neurone disease."
Yeah, I can still remember the day vividly in my mind. I remember sitting opposite the doctor in the Western General Hospital in Edinburgh, and you know, the words were coming out his mouth, you know, "You've got motor neurone disease." And I just didn't believe the words that were coming out his mouth. It was just complete disbelief. I was shaking my head.
So you'd had no warning at all that this might be the diagnosis?
I had no real, you know, I thought I'd convinced myself I had MS. I'd been, you know, as you do, Googling all the different tests that the doctors were sending me for, typing in all my symptoms, and I just thought, well, it can't be as bad as that. So I basically just discounted it. But when the doctor said the words, it was just complete disbelief.
What made you go to the doctors in the first place?
It was quite odd. It was my hands. They felt numb. It felt like I was wearing boxing gloves. I was struggling with very ordinary, everyday things, like buttoning up my shirt, tying my own shoelaces, using cutlery, typing, those kind of things. Just, you know, I was telling my hands what to do, but it was as if they weren't listening. They weren't doing what I wanted them to do. So I went along to the doctors and, you know...
You didn't do the typical male thing and delay it at all. You did go quite...
I delayed it for a bit, and then I thought, this isn't getting any better. This is actually a problem. There's something wrong here. Went along to the doctors. He shrugged his shoulders, didn't know what it was. You know, asked me daft questions like, is it worse when your hands are cold? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course they are. And he's like, well, everybody's hands are, you know, rubbish when they're cold. But I was like, no, there's something more serious here. You know, and I was hoping the doctor would be able to send me away with a packet of pills and that would be the end of it. But unfortunately, it was something far more serious.
And did you have anyone with you then, with the doctor? Because I mean, I think everyone sort of tries to put themselves in that situation, and I think to myself, well, I think I would almost shut down mentally, and I almost wouldn't be hearing the rest of what he said.
Yeah. Indeed. And you know, when I went along to the GP to begin with, I was on my own. I was just trying to find out what was wrong with me. When I suspected something more serious was up, you know, I took a friend along, and I'm so glad I did. You know, just to have somebody there to mop up the tears when you get the devastating news, you know.
And was that your immediate reaction, to become quite emotional? Because I suspect some people find it difficult to take it in at the beginning and sort of almost say, no, this can't be happening to me. And it takes some time for it to sink in.
Yeah, for sure. I went through a whole range of different emotions. I got angry. I wanted to know, why me? Why now? What have I done to deserve this? Is there something I could have done to avoid this? But then, you know, you realise, after speaking to the doctors and the nurses, that they don't know what causes motor neurone disease. Never mind what they need to do to cure it. So, you know, there's nothing I could have done differently. This just strikes people randomly. It could, you know, strike any one of us.
How do you tell people that you have MND?
I'm very honest and just very straight up. I don't sugarcoat it anymore. I'm having to deal with this, so everybody around me has to deal with it as well. I think there's no point of pretending that it's better or any easier than it is. You know, this is life-changing stuff. I'm 29 years old and I've just been given a death sentence.
Who was the hardest person to tell?
My mum. That was my first call after I got the news. You know, I'd hoped that, you know, I could have just went along to the doctor, got the packet of pills and got myself sorted without having to bother her. But you've got to tell your mum something like that, and that was the hardest thing.
And did she take it in immediately?
I think it's tough. I think it's a long, slow process of acceptance. And it's the same for a lot of people around me. It's not an easy thing to get your head around. And I think with time comes acceptance. And the more you accept, the more you can move on, the more you can get on with your life. And, it can be a positive experience.
Well, after the break, we're going to find out what day-to-day life with motor neurone disease is like for Gordon. You can call him on 0345 6060 973. You can text any questions to 84850 or tweet at LBC. This is LBC. It's 7:15.
Add more in the LBC Travel Centre. Good evening. Well, very busy at the moment on the anti-clockwise M25 after an accident. It's just before junction 24 at Potter's Bar. The inside lane is coned off there. Lorry and a car involved in this. Queues back towards Enfield in the A10 at junction 25. Still some long delays as well anti-clockwise as you head past Heathrow Terminal 4 at junction 14. Not helped by a breakdown in the queues earlier where they had to block the anti-clockwise side for a short time. So do expect long queues there back up past junction 16 for the M40. Delays southbound into London at Hoxton. The A10 Kingsland Road is blocked after an accident at Burnham Street. M1 northbound through Northamptonshire still looking very slow after 3 lorry accident earlier at junction 15 for Northampton. And in the West Midlands, big queues on the M6 northbound passing Birmingham. 3 lanes shut after an accident at junction 6 for Spaghetti Junction. Keeping you moving. Your next travel update is in 15 minutes.
LBC Travel.
With Go-To Meeting. Back to work. Beat the rush by skipping it.
Don't miss Disney Pixar's Toy Story The Time Forgot.
Buzz, what happened? The broadband is down. What's it say, Trixie?
You have reached your broadband limit. Sorry, Rex.
So, no more shows?
No, boy.
No social media?
Hold
You
on.
kittens are sneezing pandas? No more internet? Ah!
Rex?
I think he's reached his limit.
Why put up with broadband limits? Get unlimited broadband free for 12 months in the Sky Broadband Big Sale. Skyline rental $16.40 a month. Sky. Believe in better.
Woo-hoo!
New Sky Broadband and talk customers only in Sky Network areas. $6.95 router delivery, setup fees, min contracts and further terms apply.
At Wix, we refuse to be beaten on price. So, we match our red pencil prices to the lowest everyday prices of our leading competitors. Like our 10-pack 100mm by 1.8 metre feather edge fence board. £10.98 each when you buy 5. That's the red pencil price covered by our price promise and it's got our name on it. Wix. Price beaten on equivalent product within 10 miles. Excludes sale and promotional prices. T's and C's apply. Visit wix.co.uk.
Meet Anjali, accountant and savvy businesswoman. When it came to getting a company vehicle, she followed the same advice she gives her clients. If it appreciates, buy it. If it depreciates, lease it through Lex Auto Lease. With contract hire, her fleet isn't on the company's balance sheet, meaning there's no worry over depreciating assets and unplanned costs.
Join the Lex Auto Lease Leasing Revolution at leasingrevolution.com.
Good day, sir. May I help you with your bags? Presidential suite, I assume.
Oh, no.
The King Executive, very good, sir.
No, actually,
Deluxe Executive, still exquisite.
No.
Which room are you in, then?
The conference room.
Oh.
I'm here for a meeting.
Look premium in the Passat GT from £249 per month. Take a test drive at your local retailer. The new Volkswagen Passat, as advanced as you are. Hire agreement for business users only. Price excludes VAT at 20% with a deposit payable.
Finding a £1 down the back of the sofa feels...
Ooh!
Finding a £5 in the street feels...
Wow!
So imagine how good it feels to find you can save £226 just by switching from BT to TalkTalk for your broadband.
Yeah!
Britain's best broadband deal is a TalkTalk deal. 12 months of totally unlimited free broadband with 1670 line rental, £226 less than BT. Have a happy free year at talktalk.co.uk. 18-month contract and conditions apply. Price after promo £350. See website for comparison details. Excludes gift card.
118434, the handy number for handy numbers.
Calls cost 76p plus £1.53 per minute from a BT landline. Other networks vary and mobiles cost considerably more.
Weekend mornings from 10 on LBC. Saturday with Ken Livingstone and David Mellor.
You shouldn't underestimate the scale of surveillance there is. I was always in a position where John Stevens or Sir Ian Blair, the Metropolitan Commissioners, were phoning me up to say, we've just stopped a plot. It's only about once or twice a year.
Yeah, but you see, the point is, they're a bit like a football manager. A football manager will always talk about the games he won. He won't talk about the games he loses.
Sunday with Beverly Turner.
One of the most chilling images for me in this whole issue is when you see toddlers with Kalashnikovs. You see 4 and 5-year-olds who are already consider themselves to be jihadists. That is our future right there, isn't it? We have to be tackling it on a human level as opposed to on an ideological level.
Leading Britain's conversation, weekend mornings from 10 on LBC.
7:20 here on LBC. Don't forget, you can watch us live at lbc.co.uk. Just click on the link on the front page and you can watch our conversation as well. Now, I'm joined in the studio by Gordon Aikman and his partner Joe. Gordon's just 29. He has motor neurone disease. Now, this is a disease that attacks the nerves that send messages from the brain to the muscles, and it means the muscles very quickly waste away. Gordon, we've been hearing about how you felt when you were first diagnosed, but so we get an idea of what life is like for you right now, you've taken us around your flat in Edinburgh. And this is a first of a series of diary entries that you're going to keep for LBC.
So one of the things that I really struggle with now is stairs. I just can't do them on my own now, but I'm really lucky now that I'm in a flat where there's a lift. Yeah, if I didn't have a lift like this, it would be, I just wouldn't be able to get to my flat. I'd have had to move house, I would have had to move out. Up to the second floor. It's a bit weird when you depend on a lift like this, and it does break down occasionally. It's a bit scary. What if there was a fire? What if I was stuck here? I can't use stairs. I just depend on the lift. These are the kind of things that would never have crossed your mind until you're faced with it, until you are disabled, until you are that disabled person. When you're out and about, you're looking for a drop curb so you can get from the pavement to the road. When you're out in a bar or a restaurant, you're like, please let there be a toilet on the ground floor. I can't go upstairs, I can't go downstairs. So it makes you think about all sorts of crazy things that, all of us take for granted. That's us just come into my flat now. Since being diagnosed, increasingly there's things around the house that I struggle with. So even if I was, making a cup of tea, for example, I wouldn't fill the kettle full because I know that I can't carry a full kettle. My arms and my hands are just so weak. So, I just put a tiny bit of water, just enough for a cup of tea, and that way I can just about carry it. Cutlery, yeah, that's another one that I struggle with. Just because my hands don't grip like they used to, it's hard to hold on to cutlery, so I try and eat things where I can just use a fork or a spoon. I try and get, I cut things up. Sorry, I get someone else to cut things up first, because that just makes things that bit easier. But it's so frustrating because I love food, I love good food, I love eating out. And just thinking, you think twice about picking things off a menu if you think, I'm going to make a right mess trying to cut that up and eat it. So, you think differently even about the food you eat. It just frustrates me knowing that I can't do, I can't chop, I can't grip a knife tight enough to actually chop something up. So, I miss cooking actually, I really do. There we go. Frothy coffee. I wouldn't be able to carry them through just because I'd particularly hot cup, my hands aren't strong enough, so I've got a little trolley thing which I use all the time. It's like a little granny trolley, but it's handy, so. And again, it takes up space, but you get used to these things just being around your house. Just little things can make a big difference. So I'm sitting down with my laptop out in front of me, and this was actually one of the first things I noticed. It was my fingers, they felt numb, it felt like I was wearing boxing gloves. It felt like I wasn't in control of my own hands. I was telling them what to do, but they weren't doing what I wanted. So I can just still type, but I'm so slow. So I've started playing around with like voice recognition software and all that sort of stuff. You know, it's the progressive nature of the disease. Everything gets tougher, everything gets more difficult. I'll come through. This is my bedroom, and as you can see by my, on my bedside table, it's not what you'd expect to find in a bedroom. It is a ventilator. So every night I have to plug myself into that, and basically what it is, it's a reverse Hoover. It basically blows air down my nostrils into my lungs and breathes for me. It's a breathing machine. And to begin with, it was horrible. It was really claustrophobic. You get used to it. It's, I wish I didn't have to use it. It means whenever I travel anywhere, I've got to take it with me. But, like all of these things, you adapt, you evolve, you get used to things that you'd never have expected. So that's the mask that you'd put over your head. And these are the two sort of little parts that you'd put on your nose, and it just breathes for you. It's kind of magic how it works, and it's all worthwhile because you feel so much better when you wake up in the morning. So it's quite a blast, and it takes a wee while for your body to adapt and get used to it. So over time, what might happen as well is I might need to actually start using this more during the day, and there'll become a point where my muscles are just so weak, my breathing tubes, my breathing pipes, my lungs, that they won't be able to do it on their own. So I will need mechanical help from this machine 24/7. It keeps you alive, so you can't complain. So before I go out anywhere, and to be honest, when I'm even just around the house, I always put on my leg splints. So these are metal plates that go inside my shoe, underneath my foot, and it's basically like a shin pad that straps around my leg. I know that I'm vulnerable, I know that I could fall over, I know that if I'm on my own, I won't be able to get back up again. And when you're lying down on the ground, when you fall over, you're so vulnerable. You're dependent on strangers, people in the street coming to help you. And that's not a good feeling. They might look a bit funny, they might look a bit odd, but I put my jeans over the top of them and it's absolutely fine. And they just give me that bit more stability. They make me feel a lot more confident when I'm out and about and on my feet. I don't fall all the time, but I know in the back of my mind that it's a risk.
Now, that's the first in a series of diary entries that Gordon Aikman is going to keep for us at LBC. We'll be playing them out for you over the course of the next few weeks and months. Now, Gordon, you talked a lot there about how this has affected your life. What's the hardest change to adapt to?
I think the toughest thing is the way it's weakening my legs. Just how vulnerable it makes you feel when you're out and about. I'm reluctant to go out on my own now. I carry a walking stick, which is an amazing thing. Not because it, just keeps me up, but it sends a very clear signal to people that I'm disabled. I need help if I fall down. What would happen before would be I would fall over and people would walk past in the street. They would just think, God, what's he up to? What's he on? What's he been drinking?
And it has happened. You have actually fallen over in the street.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. On a train, on a busy shopping street, in a shop, in a hotel bar, you name it, I've fallen over. And, I'm usually with friends. I'm usually with, somebody who can help. But sometimes I do have to depend on strangers and passerbys.
Do you find that there is an imperative to sort of seize the day, live for today?
Very much so. And when you're given a terminal diagnosis, like I have, when you've been handed down a death sentence, I think it makes you reassess your priorities. I think you think very differently about how you live your life. I spend more time with my friends, my family, than I have ever before. I've travelled more, I've seen more of the world. I've said the words, I love you more in the last few months than ever before. It makes your relationships far more intense.
And how have those relationships changed with your family, with your friends?
Like I say, I think they're turbocharged. They've become far more intense. They have taken on deeper meaning. You reflect far more. You think more about, who you are, what's going on in your life, who's important. And, I think very carefully about how I spend each minute of every day. Because, of course, for all of us, life is precious. Life is finite. But for me, more than ever before, I know that the clock is ticking down above my head and really fast.
And they say there's that horrible old cliche, it puts things into perspective. But I guess you want to live life to the full while you can.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Cliche or not, it changes your life, and in many ways it's a positive influence. Just because you've been told that you're dying isn't 100% negative. In many ways, I've been empowered by the news that I've been given. I've been told exactly what's going to kill me and roughly when, so I've now, I'm putting together a plan and living my life differently.
Well, after the break, we're going to find out what the future holds for Gordon. If you want to get involved and share your experiences of motor neurone disease, call me now, 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850 or tweet at LBC. This is LBC, it's 7:30. News headlines with Simon Conway.
Britain and America are establishing a new joint group to counter the rise of violent extremism following the Paris terror attacks. David Cameron and Barack Obama have made the announcement in Washington, saying the new group will look at what more they can learn from each other's experiences. Chief constables across the country are reviewing how to strengthen the protection of their officers and the Jewish community. Britain's most senior counter-terrorism officer says there are heightened concerns following the attack on a kosher supermarket in the French capital. A teenager is being held on suspicion of terrorism offences after being arrested at Stansted Airport. The 18-year-old woman is being questioned over allegations of preparing terrorist acts and having membership of a banned organisation. The business news: more energy job losses have been announced as unions and employers in the oil and gas industry met in Aberdeen to discuss the effects of the huge drop in oil prices. Schlumberger says North Sea jobs would be lost as part of its plans to cut 9,000 posts internationally. Holidaymakers are mostly benefiting from the volatility in the European currency markets. The pound is 9% up on the euro since last year, but it's fallen 17% against the Swiss franc after Switzerland unpegged its currency from the euro. Foreign exchange broker Al Paris has closed its UK arm following Switzerland's decision. It's unclear what that means for West Ham United, which has Al Paris as its main shirt sponsor. And the FTSE 100 closed up 51 at 65.50. LBC weather: a widespread frost overnight for London and the southeast, some rain for western areas and feeling very cold, lows of -1 Celsius. Some wintry showers for northwest England, Wales, Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Frosty elsewhere. A mix of sunshine and more wintry showers over the weekend, and tomorrow highs of 7 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Simon Conway.
This is Adam Moore in the LBC Travel Centre. Well, lots of problems on the M25 tonight. There's been another accident. This time it's anti-clockwise at junction 16, the M40. 2 lanes shut. Can't unfortunately see which lanes are shut. The camera's not on it. But 2 lanes shut at junction 16, the M40. That's causing queues back towards Maple Cross at junction 17. Also anti-clockwise, there's a lane closed after an accident involving a lorry and a car just before junction 24 for Potters Bar. The queues there back to Enfield and the A10 at junction 25, so do expect delays. The inside lane is closed along there. In Hoxton, as you head southbound into London, Kingsland Road's partly blocked after an accident at the Burnham Street. Delays through Northamptonshire. The M1 northbound's queuing after an accident earlier at junction 15 for Northampton, and long delays through the West Midlands passing Birmingham. The M6 northbound, 3 lanes are shut, just the outside lane to squeeze by at junction 6 for the Aston Expressway. Keeping you moving. Your next travel update is in 15 minutes.
LBC Travel
with Go-To Meeting, where there's always a seat for you.
At Wickes, we refuse to be beaten on price. So, we match our red pencil prices to the lowest everyday prices of our leading competitors. Like our 1800 by 900 by 12.5mm Knauf plasterboard square edge. £4.19 when you buy 5. That's the red pencil price, covered by our price promise, and it's got our name on it. Wickes. Price beaten on equivalent product within 10 miles. Excludes sale and promotional prices. T's and C's apply. Visit wickes.co.uk.
This is Kay. Say hello, Kay.
Hello.
Being Being a savvy shopper, Kay searches online to find the best deals, and that's why she sold her car to WeBuyAnyCar.com. By going with us, she became a cash buyer and was in a much stronger position when negotiating a better deal on her next car.
Overall, I saved nearly £3,000.
A clever cookie, that girl. See what you could save by not partexing. Enter your reg number now at WeBuyAnyCar.com, the UK's favourite car buying service.
118434. 118434. 118434.
What are you doing?
Shh, trying to remember a number. 118434.
Do you want to borrow my pen?
Brilliant, thanks. 118434.
Now, whenever you need a number, there's only one number you need to remember. 118434, the handy number for handy numbers.
Calls cost 76 pence plus £1.53 per minute from a BT landline. Other networks vary and mobiles cost considerably more.
Finding £1 down the back of the sofa feels... Ooh! Finding a £5 in the street feels... Wow! So imagine how good it feels to find you can save £226 just by switching from BT to TalkTalk for your broadband. Britain's best broadband deal is a TalkTalk deal. 12 months of totally unlimited free broadband with 1670 line rental, £226 less than BT. Have a happy free year at talktalk.co.uk. 18-month contract and conditions apply. Price after promo £350. See website for comparison details. Excludes gift card.
Iain Dale at Drive on LBC.
It's 7:36 here on LBC. You're listening to Iain Dale. Now, let me remind you, you can watch us live on lbc.co.uk. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be hearing from Gordon's partner Joe in a minute and how this affects him. But Gordon, let's look to the future now. What does it hold? This is such a devastating disease. How can you be positive about it? I mean, you seem a remarkably positive person.
Yeah, I think there's no point in focusing on what you can't do, what you're unable to do. I think it's far better to focus on what you still can do. Yes, I'm becoming increasingly disabled, but that doesn't mean I'm going to spend the rest of my life stuck in my flat. I need to get out and enjoy life as much as I can.
What do you fear the most?
I fear losing my voice. That is one of the horrible, horrible things about motor neuron disease, is that it can rob people of their voice, their ability to communicate. I fear that far more than being stuck in a wheelchair or, anything else.
So there could come a time when you can hear, but you can't speak.
Yep, and your brain is unaffected by motor neuron disease, so I'll be, completely with it. I'll be thinking. I'll still be thinking like I've always done, but it'll become very difficult for me to communicate.
And it's a horrible question in a way, but at the age of 29, you never think you're going to be planning for your own death, do you?
No, I'm 29 years old. I should be planning my 30th birthday, not my own funeral.
And is that what you think you have to do?
Yeah, these are the questions I've been asked in the last year. Would you like to donate your brain and spinal cord for medical research? Would you like to, what day can we drop off your wheelchair? Would you like a feeding tube installed? Would you like to be buried or cremated? These are some of the questions that I'm asked, and these are the kind of questions you expect to be answering when you've got grey hair and grandkids.
Yeah, I do that. I mean, I have actually planned my own funeral, but then I am nearly double your age. So.
But that's the bonkers thing. But you've just got to get on with it, and once it's all dealt with and out of the way, you just think, well, tick, job done, move on, next.
Do you ever think about a legacy? Because we'll come on to the fightback campaign in a moment, and I think that that in a sense will be your legacy. I'm sure that's not what you sort of intended, but it's sort of, you've become a public figure. I mean, and unfortunately, of course, in many ways, but you have achieved so much, not just in raising money, but actually increasing the profile of this disease, which, the very fact that we're talking about it here for an hour, which we wouldn't have done had we not sort of had all the background to this. So, as you said before, there are positives that can come out of this.
Yeah, I wish it didn't come down to me to do what I'm doing. I wish we already had a cure for motor neuron disease. But, I started getting angry when I realised the way MND patients are treated. And, I found out that the nurses that look after me in my house, they're not paid for by our NHS. They're paid for by people running marathons and organising bake sales. It's charitable donations that fund those nurses. They're an absolute lifeline for me. They're nurses that work in NHS hospitals, referring you on to NHS services, working with NHS patients. And yet, 80% of their funding was coming from charity. It was just bonkers. And, I was just so frustrated that you could go to the doctor and they could actually just say, well, there's nothing we can do. That's hard to accept. And I just wanted to do something.
And if you hadn't been if you hadn't got the family support network, if you hadn't got a partner and all the rest of it, and you were somebody who was literally on their own, it would be, I was going to say, I don't know how to express this, I was going to say it would be even worse if that's possible.
It's impossible for anybody at any point in their life to accept and move on when you've been told news like this. But none of us choose how we're going to die. There's something that's going to come for all of us. The only difference is I know what it is, and I know that it's coming much, much quicker than I would have liked.
Well, let's talk about the Fightback campaign. You and I first had contact when you launched your Just Giving page. And I sort of made a donation to that, and basically the world almost went mad, didn't it, overnight? And you must have been very surprised by what happened then.
It was bonkers. It just blew me away. My mind was in an absolute whir. I set up the Just Giving page thinking I would raise a few £1,000s, from friends and family and people that felt, that knew me or felt a bit guilty, and it just exploded. We've raised over £100,000 now. And, the best thing is that there's over 3,000 people have chipped in. I don't know 3,000 people. These are strangers. These are people I've never met.
But they feel they know you. And that's a really important thing. And the fact that you have been so open, because, it can't be easy to do this and sort of go and be so open and talk about it. And you've written a lot. You've talked to politicians. And how have you felt on the political level is there enough understanding of this disease, and particularly the NHS's role in caring for people, or the social care system's role in caring for people?
I think awareness has certainly been heightened following the Ice Bucket Challenge, following the Theory of Everything film, the Stephen Hawking film, things like that.
Which you've been to see this afternoon?
Yes, absolutely. I felt I absolutely just had to go and see it.
Well, we'll talk about that when we talk to Joe in a minute.
But I just thought, I needed to do something, and starting the campaign was my way of turning something that was very negative for me into something that could be positive for other people. It was a way of channeling my energy. And, do our politicians know enough about this? Are they listening? I hope so, but I know I've still got a long way to go. I want to see in my lifetime the amount of money spent on M&D research doubled at least. And I want all the UK parties to be putting in manifesto commitments for the general election, because the only way we're going to stop people like me dying from motor neurone disease is if we properly invest in research. We don't spend nearly enough as a country on MND research. The hope comes in the shape of test tubes and scientists in white coats. We need to invest in them if we want to stop this needless loss of life.
Well, in approximately 10 days' time, we've got the Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, coming to do a phone-in. He's going to be sitting exactly where you are. What would you like to ask him?
I have, one clear ask for him, and it would be to double the amount of money we spend on MND research in the UK. I think the more we spend, it's simple, the quicker we will find a cure.
Do you think that the reason, I don't know what the amount is that's spent on MND research, but is the fact that it isn't enough, it's not sort of, it hasn't got a huge lobbying effort behind him, like sort of, shall we say, some more high-profile diseases that affect more people? Is that part of the problem?
Yeah, I think it is. And MND might not be as common as other diseases, but, I didn't choose to get this. Nobody chooses to develop MND. And it's not just the thousands of people that have MND. It's the thousands of people that they know and are affected by it as well.
And we should explain that you do have a political background yourself. You were a senior member of the Better Together campaign team.
Yeah, that's right.
I think policy manager.
Yep, Director of Research was my shiny title.
Much grander title. So you know your way around the political system, and you've actually used that knowledge, haven't you, to promote this cause? You've had meetings with Nicola Sturgeon and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
We'll come on to a lot more about that in the next section of the programme. We'll also meet your partner Joe and talk to him about sort of how this has affected him and your relationship. This is LBC. It's coming up to 7:45.
This is Adam Moore in the LBC Travel Centre. Well, better news about the anti-clockwise M25. There was an accident at junction 16 earlier, blocking a couple of lanes. That's now gone. All lanes are back open. Still very slow, though, as you head past there, down to the M4 and down towards the roadworks at the Thorpe interchange at junction 12. So to expect around 20 to 30 minutes of delays there. The anti-clockwise closure between 25 and 24, Enfield Potters Bar, that's also gone now after an accident involving a lorry earlier, and all the queues have eased off as well. Kingsland Road southbound into town at Hoxton, the A10, still partly blocked after an accident at the lights just by Laburnham Street. Delays tonight in the West Midlands, long queues, 3 lanes shut on the northbound M6 at junction 6 for the Aston Expressway after an accident. In Manchester, the M62 eastbound, a lane closed there following an accident. That's at junction 20 for Rochdale and the A627. Keeping you moving. Your next travel update is in half an hour.
LBC Travel.
With Go-To Meeting. Back to work. Beat the rush by skipping it.
Good day, sir. May I help you with your bags? Presidential suite, I assume.
Oh, no.
The King Executive, very good, sir.
No, actually,
Deluxe Executive, still exquisite.
No.
Which room are you in, then?
The conference room.
Oh.
I'm here for a meeting.
Look premium in the Passat GT from £249 per month. Take a test drive at your local retailer. The new Volkswagen Passat, as advanced as you are. Hire agreement for business users only. Price excludes VAT at 20% with a deposit payable.
Don't miss Disney Pixar's Toy Story That Time Forgot.
Buzz, what happened?
The broadband is down. What's it say, Trixie?
You have reached your broadband limit. Sorry, Rex.
So, no more shows?
Oh, boy.
No social media?
Hold
You
on.
kittens are sneezing pandas? No more internet?
Rex?
I think he's reached his limit.
Why put up with broadband limits? Get unlimited broadband free for 12 months in the Sky Broadband Big Sale. Skyline rental $16.40 a month. Sky. Believe in better.
Woo!
New Sky Broadband and talk customers only in Sky Network areas. $6.95 router delivery, setup fees, min contracts and further terms apply.
Oliver speaking.
Winston Wolfe. I understand your house is flooded and uninhabitable.
Yes?
Your landlord wants me to sort you out.
But it wasn't my fault.
Which means that, as you agreed with your landlord, you're entitled to alternative accommodation, and Direct Line will pick up the bill.
That's great.
Like it never happened, Oliver.
Guaranteed to beat any quote for the same cover. Can your landlord insurance do that? Search Direct Line Landlord Insurance. New customers only. Policy limits and qualifying criteria apply. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
At Wix, we refuse to be beaten on price. So, we match our red pencil prices to the lowest everyday prices of our leading competitors. Like our 10-pack 100mm by 1.8 metre feather edge fence board. £10.98 each when you buy 5. That's the red pencil price, covered by our price promise, and it's got our name on it. Wix. Price beaten on equivalent product within 10 miles. Excludes sale and promotional prices. T's and C's apply. Visit wix.co.uk.
Are you a successful business leader who inspires confidence and loyalty? College of Policing are looking for people just like you to join their direct entry superintendent program, taking leaders from a wide range of professional backgrounds and training them to become police superintendents in just 18 months. If you're looking for a new challenge or a change of career and a chance to make a difference to the lives of thousands, visit leadbeyond.police.uk to see how you can make the move into this hugely rewarding role.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Ollie Mann.
Commuters passing through Waterloo Station today had the opportunity to don a virtual reality headset to feel as if they were in a tank firing on enemy positions. Now that sounds like gamifying a war zone to me, but the Army say it's just the latest way to recruit reservists. Do you see it as an acceptable recruitment technique?
Leading Britain's conversation, Ollie Mann. This evening from 8 on LBC.
It's 11 minutes to 8. You're listening to Iain Dale on LBC. Well, I'm joined by Gordon Aikman and his partner, Joe. Gordon's just 29 and has motor neurone disease. That's a disease that attacks the nerves that send messages from the brain to the muscles. It means the muscles very quickly waste away. Now, you can watch our conversation on lbc.co.uk. Gordon, we started talking about your fightback campaign there. You've met some quite influential people as part of that campaign. I know you were invited to Downing Street. You met Samantha Cameron, Nicola Sturgeon. You've had a meeting with the Scottish First Minister, Ed Miliband. Apart from obviously them understanding your own situation, have those meetings actually promoted the cause, and have they actually promised to change anything in the law or the way the NHS operates?
Yeah. So the thing that I'm interested in is changing things and making things better for people with MND. So following the meeting I had with Scotland's First Minister, she agreed to not only publicly fund MND specialist nurses, but to double the number that we have in Scotland. So that's a massive, massive victory for the campaign and the thousands of people that got behind me. And what that allows is MND Scotland to be a charity and to focus on providing information and support for friends and family instead of propping up our NHS.
Well, let's have a couple of texts and tweets that have come in. Amanda in Wickford says, I'd just like to say that without hopefully sounding patronising, that Gordon is truly an inspiration. I moan about my job and it's nothing. It totally put me to shame and put my minor troubles into perspective. I'm not especially religious, but I think saying God bless you, Gordon, seems appropriate. Steve says, your guest is a very positive person. He reminds me of my best friend who passed away in October from cancer. He was positive, or at least he didn't make his fears evident. He worked until a couple of days before he died. He also had the bad luck of having an illness that has a negative stigma where people often get blamed for having it, lung cancer. He never smoked, but he died at 38 from lung cancer. On Twitter, Sarah says, Sarah, who suffers from MND, she says, I miss my voice so much, even though I now have great eye glaze technology. That's the worst part about MND for me. Chris says, being with my dear partner at the last stages of their illness was a profound time. We both learnt so much about each other. Davo says, this is incredible, an amazing person, such strength. And Jeanette says, I've been moved to tears listening to your guest speak. So some nice positive comments there. Joe, let's bring you into the conversation. You and Gordon are going to be keeping a diary for LBC on what life is like for you both over the next few weeks and months. What's life been like for you since Gordon was diagnosed?
It's been tough. It's been frustrating at points, difficult, obviously very emotional. It's a sort of fast-forward relationship. I suppose the milestones you get through in maybe 10 years, we've been through in 12 months. But also, I think people assume that life must just be very depressing and really tough, when actually there have been some amazing highs. We've done amazing things, been to amazing places and had amazing moments. And you realise that actually you don't even need any of those things to have a great time. It's not necessarily having a lovely meal in a lovely restaurant or a lovely hotel stay. It's actually spending time with people who are important to you and sharing those moments of laughter or closeness.
What's been the hardest thing?
It's difficult watching Gordon struggle, but I also find it very difficult watching other people's reaction to how his body changes, because I see it every day. I see the change and I can feel I can almost predict what's the next big hurdle. But people who see him once a month or once a quarter are suddenly hit by this significant change as they last see him. And actually I find other people being emotional, other people finding it difficult, that almost sets me off than actually spending the time with Gordon, because we're a team, we work well together and we don't get too emotional.
Gordon, do you understand people's reaction when they do that? Because, I mean, it's like some people cannot cope being with somebody who has a big disability. It's not the sort of the shock. They just can't, for whatever reason, they can't cope with it.
There's a bizarre awkwardness, for sure. People don't know whether they should, leave you alone and let you toil away and struggle because you want to feel independent, or whether you would actually far rather they just helped you. I've been out for dinner multiple times now and people have offered to cut up my dinner for me. Bizarre. But you know what? I say yes.
Yeah.
Because it does make my life easier. It means I can eat my dinner while it's still hot.
It's funny because we've never met before, and when I met you for a few minutes at lunchtime today, and I immediately hugged you, and I did think to myself afterwards, how inappropriate was that? And do you get that a lot?
No, not at all.
It's because I felt I knew you somehow. I suppose because I follow what you've been doing, and I know Joe.
And I've been very open and very honest about my story. I've shared a lot, and I'm glad I have. Right back at the start, people were asking, why are you doing this, Gordon? You don't need to. But I just felt bottling it up and dealing with it just away in a little corner myself wasn't the right thing to do. And actually sharing my story, telling my story, putting my own thoughts either down in paper or out over the airwaves, it helps me cope. It helps me process what's going on in my own head.
Joe, what has struck you most about the way that Gordon has handled this over the last 7 months?
I mean, the whole way he's handled it has struck me. There's nothing specific, but I think it's almost the focus in a way and the capacity to work and get things done. I mean, it's not as if Gordon, who no longer has a full-time job, spends all his time watching, Jeremy Kyle This Morning on TV. He is working really, really hard, having a lot of meetings, doing lots of media appearances and talking to a lot of politicians. And it's not the natural thing to do. And I think some of that must be very difficult, but it's impressive.
Let me put the same question to you. What struck you about the way Joe's handled this? Because, I mean, it wasn't obviously something he signed up for, I guess, when you got together.
Yeah. One of the toughest things about motor neurone disease is it's not something you can deal with on your own. It's not something you can isolate. It affects every single person around you, and it's the people you love the most that will be hurt the most, and that's painful. I wish I didn't have to inflict this on Joe, on my family, on my friends, on everyone around me, but it's something over which I have no control.
Joe, I'm going to ask you a difficult question. Have you at any point since Gordon was diagnosed in June, have you thought about walking away?
No.
It's a very, very categoric answer.
Yeah.
But I mean, it must be difficult though. And I mean, I think we all try and put ourselves, I would love to think that if I was in a similar situation, I would do exactly what you've done and stand by the person that I love. But there must have been difficult times.
Honestly, there's nothing so difficult to sort of even contemplate that. Gordon's somebody I've known since I was 18 at Freshers' Week at Edinburgh University, who I've cared about for a very long time, and we have an amazing life together. And it's, what has happened is very difficult, but I've fallen in love at the same time, and that's incredible and it's amazing. And it's never once has there been that a contemplation, because actually if two of you working together and it is a team that we have, nothing is too difficult and you can get through most things.
And is it the same for you, that you sort of want to seize the day, you don't contemplate too much what's going to happen in the future?
No, I don't contemplate too much what's going to happen in the future, but I don't think naturally people do. I don't think you worry about what could be around the corner. I think you just get on. And I do think that certain minor things are far less relevant now. If you're getting frustrated with somebody, there's a little niggle or it's irritating, actually, this is so irrelevant. In the grand scheme of things, who cares? Let's move on and have fun.
Just finally, I can't believe that our time has nearly run out, but I want to put the same question to both of you. What would you say to someone listening who is in your position, who's struggling to cope, either from the person who has motor neurone disease or the person that's helping them cope with it?
What I would say is it's not all bad. In many ways, it's made me reprioritise how I live my life. In many ways, it's had a positive impact on my life. I wish this wasn't happening to me, but it's certainly not all bad.
Joe?
Spend as much time as possible doing amazing things and having amazing moments and make the most of it all.
Well, it's been an amazing hour. I think everyone listening, will have learnt an awful lot. I think they will have been inspired by listening to you, Gordon. Now that we have a page on our website at lbc.co.uk. If you wish to support Gordon's Fightback campaign, you can donate through that page. And do keep checking back regularly, because Joe and Gordon will be recording a diary for us every so often. We'll also be playing them on the programme too. So I can't tell you how grateful I am to you both for coming down and talking to us. That's Gordon Aikman and Joe Pike. I'll be back on Monday at 4. Coming up next, it's Ollie Mann.
Thank you, Ian, and thank you for that very compelling hour of radio as well. I'm sitting in for Ian Collins.